Alexander Knight was untouchable, or so he liked to believe. At 35, he helmed Knight Enterprises, a sprawling real estate empire that dominated the New York skyline with gleaming skyscrapers, luxury hotels, and exclusive residential towers. His office on the top floor of Knight Tower overlooked Central Park, a view that symbolized his ascent from a privileged but fractured childhood in the Hamptons to the pinnacle of Manhattan's power elite. Alexander's life was a meticulously constructed fortress, custom-tailored suits from Savile Row, a fleet of black SUVs with tinted windows, and a social calendar filled with galas where deals were sealed over vintage scotch. Emotions, those were liabilities. Trust a fool's game. He'd learned that lesson early, after his college sweetheart sold their private photos to a tabloid for a quick payout. Since then, women in his life came with expiration dates, beautiful, ambitious, and always on his terms. But fortresses have cracks, and Alexander's appeared on a stormy Thursday night in late October. The city was a blur of rain-slicked streets and honking taxis as he returned to his flagship property, the Knight Grand Hotel on Fifth Avenue. The hotel was a jewel in his crown, marble lobbies, crystal chandeliers, and suites that catered to celebrities and CEOs alike. Alexander had just wrapped a grueling negotiation with a rival developer over a prime Brooklyn waterfront plot. Exhausted and irritable, he retreated to his private penthouse suite, pouring himself a glass of Macallan 25 and sinking into the leather armchair by the floor-to-ceiling windows. Thunder rumbled outside, mirroring the storm in his mind. A knock at the door startled him. He wasn't expecting anyone. "Room service," came a soft voice from the hall. Annoyed, he yanked open the door, ready to dismiss whoever it was. Standing there was a young woman in the hotel's crisp concierge uniform, black skirt, white blouse, name tag reading Sophia. She held a tray with fresh towels and a bottle of mineral water, her dark hair pulled into a neat ponytail, raindrops glistening on her coat. Her eyes, a warm hazel, widened in surprise. "Mr. Knight, I think I have the wrong room." The order was for suite 4502. Alexander glanced at the door number 4501. A mix-up, probably from the front desk during the shift change. But in that moment, fueled by whiskey and frustration, he saw something else, an opportunity to forget the day's chaos. "Come in anyway," he said, his voice low and commanding. Sophia hesitated, her grip tightening on the tray. She was covering for a friend on the night shift, desperate for the overtime to cover her brother's tuition. At 24, Sophia Morales had no time for billionaires or their whims. Raised in a cramped two-bedroom apartment in the Bronx, she'd learned survival from her single mother, Elena, who scrubbed offices downtown to keep food on the table. Sophia dreamed of culinary school, of opening a small eatery serving the Puerto Rican dishes her abuela had taught her. But dreams cost money, and right now, she needed this job. What happened next was a blur, a conversation that turned flirtatious, a shared laugh over the storm outside, and then, inexplicably, a kiss that ignited like lightning. Alexander's hands were gentle yet insistent, and Sophia, caught in the whirlwind of his intensity, didn't pull away. She'd saved herself for someone special, someone who saw her as more than a uniform. But in Alexander's arms, for the first time, she felt seen, desired not for what she could provide but for who she was in that raw moment. The night unfolded in a haze of passion, the rain pounding against the windows as their worlds collided. Morning light filtered through the curtains, harsh and unforgiving. Alexander woke first, his head throbbing. The sheets were tangled, and there a faint smear of blood. His stomach dropped. Beside him, Sophia stirred, her face pale, eyes fluttering open to meet his. Shame flooded her features. "Oh God," she whispered, pulling the sheet up to her chin. This wasn't supposed to happen. Alexander sat up, running a hand through his disheveled hair. What do you mean? His voice was steady, but inside, panic brewed. He wasn't the type for one-night stands with staff, lawsuits, scandals that could tank his reputation. Sophia explained in a rush, the wrong suite number on the order slip, her exhaustion from back-to-back shifts, the way he'd pulled her in. Tears welled in her eyes. Please, don't report me. I can't lose this job. My family depends on me. She gathered her clothes, avoiding his gaze, her movements frantic. He could have let her go, called security, or even paid her to sign a non-disclosure agreement. That's what the old Alexander would have done, efficient, detached. But something in her vulnerability cracked him. Wait, he said as she reached for the door. She froze, turning slowly. You're not in trouble. But we need to talk. That conversation stretched into hours. Over room service coffee, Sophia opened up about her life, her mother's long hours, her brother Luis's aspirations to study engineering at NYU, the constant juggle of bills and dreams. Alexander listened, really listened, for the first time in years. He shared fragments of his own story, the pressure from his late father to expand the empire, the isolation of wealth, the betrayal that had left him guarded. By noon, an unlikely connection formed, fragile but real. Sophia left with his number, promising to text if she needed anything. Alexander spent the afternoon distracted, replaying the night. He wasn't one for regrets, but this felt different. Guilt gnawed at him, not for the act, but for how it had affected her. That evening, he texted, "Are you okay?" Her reply came quickly, "Yes. Thank you for listening." What started as check-ins evolved into secret meetings. Alexander would slip into the hotel's back corridors during her shifts, or they'd meet at a quiet diner in Midtown. Sophia resisted at first, wary of the power imbalance. "You're my boss's boss," she'd say. But his persistence wore her down, not with gifts or grand gestures, but with genuine interest. He asked about her recipes, her favorite spots in the Bronx, her hopes for the future. One crisp November evening, they walked through Central Park, leaves crunching underfoot. The air smelled of roasted chestnuts from street vendors. Alexander wore a casual hoodie to blend in, a far cry from his usual boardroom attire. "Tell me about your abuela's cooking," he said, linking his arm with hers. Sophia smiled, her breath visible in the cold. "Arroz con gandules, rice with pigeon peas, sofrito, olives. It's comfort food, reminds me of home." She paused, glancing at him. "What about you? What's your comfort?" He thought for a moment. "Solitude, I guess. But lately, it's this talking to you." Their first real date was at a hole-in-the-wall Puerto Rican spot in the Bronx, far from paparazzi eyes. Sophia ordered mofongo, Alexander tried it and loved it. Laughter flowed easily, barriers crumbling. That night, back in his suite, this time intentionally, their intimacy was tender, exploratory. No blood, no regrets, just two people connecting. But shadows loomed. Alexander's family was old money, with expectations. His mother, Victoria, a socialite in the Hamptons, constantly pushed eligible matches, daughters of tycoons, heiresses with pedigrees. "You need someone who understands our world," she'd say. His aunt, Beatrice, the family's matriarch, ran the charitable foundation and eyed every outsider with suspicion. Sophia, meanwhile, kept their relationship hidden from her family. "Mama would freak," she'd tell Alexander. "A rich white guy, she'd think you're using me." But as weeks turned to months, hiding grew harder. Alexander helped anonymously paying Luis's tuition through a scholarship, covering Elena's medical checkups via a hotel benefit. Sophia appreciated it but insisted on paying him back someday. The turning point came in December, at the Knight family Christmas retreat in the Hamptons. Alexander needed a date to fend off his mother's setups. "Come as my assistant," he suggested. "No pressure." Sophia agreed, nervous but excited. The estate was a sprawling mansion with ocean views, roaring fireplaces, and staff serving eggnog. Victoria greeted her coolly, "Sophia, how quaint." Beatrice pulled Alexander aside, "She's staff really, Alex." During dinner, Beatrice's eyes narrowed at Sophia. "You look familiar." "Morales, like that woman who worked for us years ago." Elena Morales. She was a cleaner at the office, vanished after some drama. Sophia's heart raced. Her mother had mentioned a brief stint at Knight Enterprises before switching jobs. "Just a coincidence," she said lightly. But later, alone with Alexander, she confessed her unease. What if there's more to it? Curiosity piqued, Alexander dug into old records. What he uncovered shook him. 20 years ago, Elena had been a janitor at the company's old headquarters. She'd overheard a conversation about embezzlement funds siphoned from development projects by Alexander's late uncle, Reginald. Elena had reported it anonymously, but Reginald found out, threatened her. She quit abruptly, citing family reasons, but records showed a suspicious payout. Worse, Elena's overdose 5 years later ruled accidental coincided with Reginald's deathbed confession, buried by the family. Sophia was devastated. "My mom wasn't an addict. She was depressed, but this, they drove her to it." Tears streamed down her face. Alexander held her, guilt twisting in his gut. "I'll make it right," he promised. Threats emerged as they probed deeper. Anonymous notes, "Stop digging or else." Sophia's apartment was ransacked, nothing stolen but files on her mother's death gone. Alexander hired security, moved her to a safe house. "This is my family's mess," he said. "I won't let it touch you." He confronted Beatrice. "You knew." She admitted, covering it up to protect the empire. "It was business, Alex. Grow up." Enraged, he went public, leaking documents to the press, announcing reforms at Knight Enterprises. Shares plummeted, board members resigned, but public support surged. "Knight cleans house," headlines read. In the midst of chaos, Sophia felt nauseous, tired. A test confirmed, pregnant. Panic set in. "How can I bring a child into this?" she asked Alexander. He knelt, eyes earnest. "Together. We'll face it together." They fled to a quiet Hudson Valley home, away from the city. There, amidst rolling hills and apple orchards, they built a life. Sophia opened a small catering business, Alexander focused on ethical developments. Their daughter, Isabella, arrived on a sunny spring day, her cries echoing hope. Years later, on their porch watching Isabella play, Alexander whispered, "You walked into the wrong room, but you saved my life." Sophia smiled. "And you gave me a future worth fighting for."